Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Talking About the Big Stuff podcast with Michael Cole and Matthew Krevat. I am Michael Cole.
And I am Matthew Krevat.
Hello, welcome.
Look at that.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. We just getting started, so we'll introduce
Let's
you.
get it started in here. Let's get it started in here.
Yeah, it's very hard for me to get any momentum going with Matthew on the streams. So for our audience, this is Madhavi, who you will know as Matthew's wife, since he's referred to her pretty consistently on the show.
And out of all my wives, I think I mentioned you the most, honey.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate you putting me first above all your other wives.
Yeah. He also likes to do a thing where he'll start telling a story and he makes it very clear to me and maybe not the audience that it's about you. And then I'm like, oh, okay. So he likes doing that a lot to me.
That's what she gets for not listening to the pod.
So I messaged Matthew this morning and said, probably this afternoon, and said we should talk about panic attacks. And he said that you have them as well.
I do.
So why don't you, if you want to start, it sounds like you have more of a history with them than I do. I have a little bit, and I can go into mine after.
You just called my wife old?
No, I meant I've only been having panic attacks I've had one before Logan was born. Every other one is Logan related. So
not surprising. I meant you did.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
now
different.
Mine started when I was way young, and I never realized it was. And my mom had them too, so they're hereditary. And I don't know about my dad. He probably did. But they didn't really get bad until like college, and I found myself in the emergency room several times because I thought I was having a heart attack. And of course, it wasn't a heart attack, but man, did it feel like it. And I felt like I had to go to the emergency room. And they're like, no, you're having a panic attack. They did the whole thing, the EKG and everything. They're like, no, you're fine. But it happened a couple of times before finally I was like, okay, I just have to deal with them.
Well, before I was like, okay, I'm not driving to the hospital again. I think we've realized it's not heart attack, it's panic attack. Followed by, no, this one's different. I said, yes, honey, I know. That's what you said last time. So no, but this one's really, really different. I understand that, but that's what happened last time. And then eventually,
that's what happens is you get irrational. Yeah. You're irrational at that point. You're not thinking straight. Just background. I have been diagnosed with OCD and depression and anxiety, and I have a problem with control. I'm a big control freak. And so having a panic attack is the biggest loss of control over your own body. And it's really nerve-wracking. And so you lose, all logic goes out the window. You're in panic. You're literally in panic mode, and you can't think straight. And so I'm dying. This is it. I'm dying, Yep. And I know it's not, it's just, and so I was taking meds for it. I have a cabinet full of clonazepam that I can always go to when I'm having a panic attack. And, I used to take it all the time. And then, I finally learned, for the most part, to control it. Like I'd have it in the car and I'd have to pull over, and I couldn't drive. And sometimes I'd have to like call Matthew, come get me. I'm just gonna have to leave the car because I can't freaking drive. I'm just, but eventually I learned to sort of tamp them down, oh, you're having a panic attack. Chill out. And I was able to control it and keep it down, especially driving, like you don't want to be driving while your heart's racing and your thoughts are racing and you can't see straight. And so I learned to control them. I really did. And I've had, in the last, say, 5 or 6 years, I have maybe 4 a year. And and there's been times when, I had to go down and like, Matthew, I'm dying. There's something terrible's wrong. But for the most part, when I have a panic attack now, I'm like, nope, you're having a panic attack, chill out. And I'm able to actually control them without any medication. I'm not on any depression medication. I'm not, and again, I have a cabinet full of clonazepam that I haven't touched in years. So I finally have a handle on them. But I'm 56. These started when I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
It's taken me this long to control them,
Well, and a
to
challenge,
finally say,
I think a challenge is Madhavi's panic attacks and her stomach are related. So she'll have
yeah,
huge stomach problems when she's having a panic attack. But similarly, if she eats something really bad for her stomach, that kind of triggers a panic attack afterwards. So
yeah,
it's much as just physical can cause it.
yeah. So, but again, I know, like, I've finally learned to control them, and without medication, without anything, you know.
Yeah.
I've
If
woken
you
up
can catch
several
it
times,
early,
and
if you can catch it early enough, you
yeah,
can talk yourself down.
I
Yeah.
can talk myself down, and I've find it, but it took me 30 freaking years to do it, right? Like, it just took me so long, and when I was having them, sometimes the kids were in the car, and I'm like, I have to drive, and the kids were little, and I can't
Yeah.
can't say, mommy's not feeling well, I have to pull over, and I had to keep driving. It was a nightmare. It was such a nightmare. Now I'm so much better. I'm so much better.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Other than the physical trigger, I was about to ask before Matthew said that. Do you find that there's other things that kick them off, or is it random?
It's random for me. It's totally random. There are times when I could be having a really crappy day,
Mm.
and it starts, and I'm like, okay, you had a really crappy day. That's why you're having a panic attack.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, and there's been times when I've had panic attacks, and it's woken me up in the middle of the night after a crappy day, and I can't sleep. It happened the other night, and I couldn't get back to sleep. I was able to calm myself down without waking Matthew up, but I couldn't get back to sleep. So I've had sleepless nights because of them, but only because it woke me up out of a deep sleep and I couldn't get back to sleep.
And it can be so random because there are times where I'll jump out of a closet just covered in fake blood with a knife and scream, and she'll just have a random panic attack at the same time. So it's
Well,
weird.
those are different.
Yeah, she's just saying
You're
weird things like "I hate you," "Why did I marry you?" "What the hell?" It's just weird. She has those weird reactions.
No, but Matthew's really good. There've been a few times when he's actually driven home from work because I was, the kids are downstairs, I'm upstairs, and I'm like, I can't calm down, I can't do it. But this was a while ago,
Yeah.
now, and now actually my kids are here, and we have two in the house. They're grown, and they're wonderful because they both suffer from anxiety and depression as well, so they know what I'm going through. So if I'm having one, they're just like, okay, mom, we're here for you, it's no problem. And so usually, and I can be there for them too, because I totally understand what they're going through, because I've been there. Unfortunately, they've inherited it from me.
Yeah.
And like Leah, she well, when she has a panic attack, she comes right to me. It doesn't matter what time of day it is. If I'm home, she comes in, and I will just hold her and talk to her and let her like spill her guts, and I can usually calm her down, but she has similar ones to me, and I feel bad because I gave her my genes, not willingly, but I gave them to her.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I do. So obviously, Logan hasn't had any yet, and he doesn't have
that's
any
good.
depression stuff yet. But he's still young, and I worry about all
But
my
he is a
mental health stuff.
Republican though, so he's not in touch with his feelings.
True,
Well,
true.
but you said yours are triggered by Logan. Is it like just
About him.
having a child and having the stress of, oh my god, I have a kid and I gotta like be the
So
perfect dad?
no. So my first post Logan panic attack was
Mm-hmm.
it was at Biomiriu,
Oh,
and I had a friend. A friend died, and it was the same week that Khashoggi was murdered, and the transcripts were released about that.
Yeah.
And Logan was we were getting Logan to sleep in his own room, and he was coming in screaming because he didn't know where he was and he was all alone. And in both, my friend, she was in her car all alone when she got hit by another car, and she died all alone. And Khashoggi was all alone, and I just connected the three things in my head and couldn't. I went into the cafeteria and I called Sarah, and I was like, I don't know what the hell this is. I had one in high school, but it was so long before, and it was different, or to some extent, because it was not triggered by anything, and I was completely freaking out about that. And so I was, what if Logan, I don't want this to happen to Logan, and and it was like a real chaotic mix of these three things hitting.
And his asshole boss wouldn't let him leave, so I don't give a shit how you feel.
No,
you of all people should have let him leave, because
I don't know if I told you.
I don't think you told me you were having a panic attack. You were just telling me.
I think I might have told you afterwards, because I think in the moment I wasn't even into. I think I just called Sarah and was like, I don't know what the hell's going on. My like my heart's racing. I'm like kind of cold. My stomach hurts. Like I had like I get like a pit in my stomach feeling. Yeah. And so that was the first one, and it hasn't happened a ton. I was getting to that point this morning. I was and I was like, I was watching clips on YouTube, like I was listening to clips, and I don't know if you guys have watched Breaking Bad, but there's a scene where Jesse Plemons kills a kid in the show, and I had seen that show before Logan was born, and it's a brutal scene. But before I had seen that, and as soon as they started playing, I'm like, nope, like it like auto played, and I was like, no, I can't do this, and I could feel it coming, and I stopped it, and then I said, oh, we should do panic attacks tonight.
Oh, okay.
So I don't often give parenting advice, but I'm going to give you some parenting advice. Do not, in the nature of your panic attacks, do not one day say, it would be a great bonding experience. I'm going to take Logan to not like Disney World, but like Busch Gardens or Carowinds, and go on roller coasters with him. Because Jacob loves roller coasters. But when he was like 12, 13, and he and I would go together, I go on any roller coaster. I have no fear. I don't care. They don't even throw me that much. But all I can picture is he's going to slip out of the harness. He's going to slip out of the harness. Like nonstop. Madhavi's going to kill me because I'm going to get off this ride alone because he's going to slip out of the harness. And so don't take it.
No, I did have. So have you guys been to Tap Station in Apex?
I have. She has.
No, Matthew has. I haven't.
Okay, there's a playground area, and there's progressively larger tires in the playground area, and you can jump from like a regular tire to a big tire, and it goes up to a tractor tire. And we were there one night, and Logan jumped from like the second to last, missed it with his feet, and went backwards, and his head bent back. I thought that I watched him die. And and Sarah was facing me, not facing him, so she didn't see it. And so I immediately jumped up and I like screamed. And then she got mad at me because she thought I was snapping at her. And then by the time I got to him, he was like, I'm okay. And he was talking and he was moving. But once you're in that mode, like the adrenaline was hitting, and I went to the car. And she finally walked over like 20 minutes later, and she thought I was just pissed off at them, and walked over, and I was like, no, I've been dry heaving over here for like 20 minutes trying to get my body to calm down because I thought I watched him die. Like it was terrible.
But it's terrifying because you're raising kids and they get into all kinds of things, and you try not to be the panicky parent, but sometimes it just happens. And it's happened to me. Jake, when Jacob was a baby, I didn't know this, but he learned to climb stairs in preschool.
So I would say when he was, crawling, we knew for a fact he could not crawl upstairs. And we had upstairs a bonus room that was like 3 steps down, just sunk in over the garage. and a bathroom at the top of those 3 steps. And Madhavi would let him play, and she would get ready in that bathroom while I had baby Joseph or whatever in the other room, and I was getting ready.
Yeah.
Then they got a new thing in daycare, a little slide that has 3 steps up and then a slide. So he learned how to crawl up those 3 steps, and then
Yeah.
how to slide down. So that's what you do. You go up 3 steps, slide.
And
We don't
so,
have a slide. We had 19 stairs going down to the first floor.
yeah, so he went up the bonus room steps, and he crawled right past me because my face was in the mirror. I was doing makeup or something, and I heard kathunk, kathunk, kathunk 19 times.
Oh.
I was, what the fuck? And I look in the bonus room, he's not there, and I went, oh my god. And he went down the stairs. He's lying at the bottom of the stairs, and I screamed and I ran. And you didn't have
This
Joseph. I was
was
pregnant with
pre Joseph.
Joseph.
This one, yeah.
I was pregnant with Joseph, and I ran down the stairs screaming at the top of my lungs.
So I'm getting ready in my room, in the master bathroom, which is the master bedroom, and I hear her screaming and running down the stairs. I didn't hear ka-thunk, ka-thunk, ka-thunk. I just heard her screaming and running down the stairs.
And so
I come
I'm
running
at the
around the
bottom of the
corner.
stairs holding him.
Like, what did she do to him?
Sitting. I didn't do anything. But I'm holding him, and he's perfectly fine.
No, he was crying.
I'm
when you were
sobbing.
You were
Well,
both
he was
crying
crying because I was crying. But
I ran down. I picked him up, took him on the other side of the room, and did a body check. He's giggling, no sore spots, so he was totally fine. We didn't go to work for an hour because she was a nervous wreck.
I couldn't calm down. Well, first of all, I was pregnant, so hormones, and I was a wreck. I was a wreck. And then we put up a railing so he couldn't go up. He was so mad, though. He was so mad because kids are like so resilient. They're just like, I'm going back down, and no, he was so mad. I put up a thing. He couldn't go back up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that happens. Just
we had a friend who told us that you're not a parent until you watch your child fall down the stairs. So we were like, does this count? Does hearing it count?
And I didn't see him, but I heard it.
I had a moment when Logan was like between 6 and 9 months old. We lived on like the middle. Well, I mean, like we had a 3-floor condo, but we lived. All of our living was basically on the middle floor, and so I had a gate at the stairs down, but I also had a gate on the stairs up because you could climb. And so, but the gate was a step in because of the way it had to be. So he could get up onto the first step and hold on. But I was like, not a big deal. He's 1 step off the ground. It's not a big deal. And he got up there and he fell backwards and hit his head one day. Like, not very hard, but he had this giant purple on the back of his head immediately. Like scary, terrifying purple. And I called Sarah and I left her she was at work and I was home. And I called her and left her just like a super panicked voicemail, and then hung up. And I'm like gently rubbing his head, and I realized it was laundry. I was doing the folding laundry. It was the lint. It was purple lint on the back of his head. And so I call her back like 30 seconds later and leave a second voicemail. Never mind, he's not dying. It was laundry lint. It was just like a purple sheet, like when it turns into that sheet form. I'm like, it was like that, and it was stuck like right on his head in such a way that it looked like he just had like immediately hemorrhaged out.
It cushioned his fall.
Yeah. So and she got the first voicemail, starts freaking out, listens to the second voicemail, thinking the second voicemail is just escalating, and then she starts. She calls me, texts me back, and like, LOL. Good job.
Good parenting.
Yeah.
That's funny. The other day I was talking to Joseph, and he was like, a friend of his had a serious fall and hurt herself. So he was trying to humor her with all the falls that he's had in his life. And like, the first one was when my father let my Uncle Jeremy babysit me for the first time, and 30 seconds after my father left, I fell on my face on concrete and bloodied myself. Just good uncle.
Nice. So we were with my nephews this weekend, and one of my nephews got hit in the face with a frisbee, like the frisbee golf frisbees, which they're hard, but and
they're thrown with power.
He had like, well, it wasn't. Luckily, it wasn't thrown with that much power. It was kind of tossed because it was uh, his my sister in law's boyfriend was like 5 feet away from the thing, and
So
he threw it.
he was putting. He wasn't
Yeah,
landing.
so it wasn't thrown that hard, but it's still like he had a little red mark
Well,
right
he
here. But he
sucks at disc golf if he hits somebody when putting. First of all,
he was anyway. It was our first time going, and it was chaos, but it was fun. But my nephew starts crying, and he's 10. He's 2 years older than Logan, and I immediately go into what would I do if Logan got hurt, and that is I make him laugh, and so I'm just like I said, I start making fun of my like heckling him essentially for crying, and he just looks at me like, "What the fuck, asshole?" And I'm like, sorry, that usually makes Logan break his crying by laughing,
Yeah.
and that usually is the thing that stops and helps him. And clearly, it's not working for you, and I'm
rub some
sorry,
dirt on it, walk it off.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, kids are stressful always, and I think I've had panic attacks related to the kids. Just worrying about them all the time. I still worry about them.
yeah,
They're grown, and I still worry about them. But they don't give me. I don't get panic attacks from that anymore.
yeah.
Mine are literally just random. Unless I had a really crappy day or something
I,
really bad happened.
I think the person who gives you panic attacks is you, because like usual, the way
Yeah,
to avoid
yeah,
them is if she's not alone. Like she has to do a long
Yeah,
drive. She's driving alone. She's gonna have a panic attack. Try to start. If someone's with her, she doesn't. It's having a second person there. Nobody wants to
yeah,
be alone with
yeah.
these thoughts.
Well, and and I read about these things. They're called intrusive thoughts,
yeah,
and they're just thoughts that you have that like go round and round in your head. Uh, there was and it's really dumb. Like people have had really dumb ones, like, oh, there was a goose on the road, and I think I hit it, but you didn't. But the
yeah,
thought goes round and round and round your head, and you want to drive back and see if you actually did or not. Like you just
yeah,
imagine yourself doing these dumbass things, and then that causes a panic attack, and I have to, and my OCD is really bad, like especially like when I'm taking medication. I have I have to take cholesterol and blood pressure meds every day, and I have to have them in a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday little case, because I will panic and go, did I already take that? Did I take the next day accidentally? And I start to panic, and I have to go back and open the case and see which days are empty
yeah,
to just reassure myself. So it's just really stupid things that make me have panic attacks, and I'm working on it with it. Well, not right now, but I was working on it with a therapist, but she left the practice, and we changed insurance. Now I have to find a new therapist.
yeah,
But it's things like that that I have to work on with the therapist. And the other thing that helped me, and I don't know if this is like the placebo effect or what, but one of one I talked to this other woman because I was thinking about going back on medication, and I told her, I said, I hate taking meds because I have this OCD thing about it.
hmm
So I don't want to add any extra medication. She's like, well, try lavender. They do lavender. They have these lavender pills, and they've done like one or two studies which say that like lavender helps with anxiety,
My whole
and
house is
depression.
lavender now.
Yeah. No, but I bought lavender tea, and I have I drink it, like I'll have like a caffeinated tea in the morning, a hot tea, and then in the afternoon or close to the evening, I'll have a lavender tea, like lavender and honey or something. And I found that I have had less anxiety now because of the lavender. But again, don't know if that's the placebo. Like somebody
yeah,
told me lavender helps. I took lavender and it helped. Doesn't mean it was the lavender, but I'm still drinking the lavender tea,
yeah,
and I feel much better. So
yeah. I think
uh,
with placebo effect stuff, you need to like once it's working, you stop looking for answers because if you find
right,
the answer, you may stop it from working.
right. So
Right.
I
Well,
just
I
drink
mean,
the tea
if
as
when your
often as I
problem is
can.
a thought-based problem, by
Mhm.
intrusive thoughts
Yeah,
cause it, then anything that you can use a feather in your trunk to not have those thoughts works. That's not
yeah.
placebo effect. That works for you. You
Yeah,
know.
Yeah, yeah. So I have these sachets that Leah and I sniff and then we sneeze because it's weird because we're allergic to the smell of that lavender, and we'll sniff them sometimes when we're stressed out, and we'll sneeze and sneeze, but for some reason drinking the tea doesn't do it, so we'll just drink the tea, and it
Nice.
helps both of us.
It's weird when they sniff the tea because it just
Just
like
works.
snorts up and bubbles.
No, we just have these little sachets that we got, and we just, that's kind of you put in your drawer to make your drawer smell nice, and we
Yeah.
just keep them by us, and like we get stressed out, we sniff them a
Like
little,
being
and it
married to
seems to help.
like King Louis the 14th, with the snuff. It's like all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Nice.
it helps. Oh, she threw me here it is. Here's the little sachet. So we
Nice.
just keep it next to us and smell it. I'm gonna sneeze now.
Talking
But
about the big stuff is sponsored by Lavender Sachet. Lavender
but
Sachet
no,
when
but
you don't want to have a
it
heart attack.
if it helps, it helps,
Yeah.
and the anxiety has gone down. I feel much better. I'm still looking for a therapist because I still have stuff I need to talk out and stuff. Like my mom would she was really addicted to her. She was taking lorazepam, and she was really addicted to it, and she finally got off of it, but she had to take like 2 a day, and like when
Yeah.
she did it, she started to feel the panic come on, and so she finally weaned herself off, and she doesn't do it anymore. But the one thing she wouldn't do was like talk to a therapist, and like when she found out that I was talking to therapists, she'd go, why don't you just why are you talking to a therapist? Why don't you just come and talk to me? And I'm like, okay, you're part of the problem. She's not going to watch this, so I can talk about it. But it's like my family was part. They made me nervous, and I think that's where it stems from because I they were looking for perfection in a child who is so imperfect. There was this Indian comedian who was like, "Oh, my mother was a doctor and my father was a professor and my sister was a chemical engineer, and I can barely color in the lines." That was her. That's me, right? I'm the black sheep of the family, and
She married me.
they put so much pressure
that,
on
that,
me.
that makes her a saint, not a black
Yeah,
sheep.
Not to her
no, but
parents.
he was well, he was my saving grace because they put so much pressure on me to be somebody that I wasn't, and
And
Matthew
compared
was
to
the
me,
first
she's an
person.
angel.
He was the first person to just make me realize that I'm okay with myself, and I'm an
Yeah.
okay person, and I don't need to be perfect. He was the first person to just accept me as me.
Yeah.
Panic attacks and all. He just totally accepted me. My parents did not. They always pushed and pushed. Oh, you didn't got a B on this test, or you didn't take this class, or you didn't whatever, like,
Yeah.
and then they'd compare me to, oh, those girls, they're both doctors, and you're just a writer, or so, like that. It was too much pressure, and I think that's where some of that anxiety comes from. Was this? I'm not perfect, and I'm flawed, and I need to fix myself, and there
Yeah.
was it was a lot of stress that caused all that anxiety, and I'm finally, you know meeting Matthew helped a lot, that because he just accepted me for me, and nobody had done that. Nobody, you
Yeah.
know we'd go to Indian things, functions at the temple, and people would be like, oh, you're going to college soon, what are you going to major in? And I'm like, well, I'm really interested in like making movies and writing.
Yeah.
Okay. And they'd walk away because I didn't say doctor or lawyer or whatever, professor or whatever.
Yeah.
I was the strange one. And
Yeah.
so I think that's what caused a lot of the anxiety, is that stress from all that pressure, being raised by these, like overprotective and wanting me to be perfect parents.
Yeah.
It was really bad. So I think that's where it stems from. I'm just sort of analyzing myself, but I'm pretty sure that's where it stems from.
Yeah. I didn't have parents that expected me to be perfect, but I did have like a decent amount of depression stuff that I think is where a lot of my anxiety stems
Yeah.
from. And a lot of that, I have a tough time with more distant family sometimes, whereas like I before going to family events, I wouldn't say it's a
Mm-hmm.
panic attack, but I do like, I never want to go to anything, and then I
Yeah.
get that pit in my, I get little symptoms of it, but not the full panic attack. So I'll get the
Right.
pit in my stomach before going to my grandfather's for Christmas because somebody's going to say something. For me, instead of being like the imperfect one, it's the, I'm the liberal one, and I
Oh.
don't, and they all know it, and so it's like
Mhm.
everything is like Biden, and you're like, and they're like looking at me while they're making comments, even if they're like halfway across the room, and I'm like, all right, okay. But I'm usually fine when I get there, but going there is always like, what's gonna happen?
Oh,
And
it's the anticipation.
yeah,
Yeah, it same thing happens when I'd go to my mom's house or my sister was there or something, because I'd always, what if they say this, or oh my god, we're going at, we're eating there, like what if I don't know, like what if I don't eat what they want me to eat, or what if
yeah,
I don't say the right thing, or oh my gosh, she's going to talk about this, or because that's usually what happens,
yeah,
like I get criticized, or somebody says something, and I'm like, I get my back up immediately, and on
yeah,
the drive there I'm like, stressed out. By the time I get there, none of that happens, and then
yeah,
I calm down. But just that anticipation, so I get it. I totally
yeah.
get it. It's just,
Yeah.
ugh.
And who you are with your family, and who you feel like you are within your family is, I think, very very often different from how the rest of the world sees you, because like what you just
Yes.
described, I wouldn't have guessed that about you. And when I tell people how I am with my family, they're like, really? Like,
Oh
it's
yeah.
not who I am outside of that, and it's because those people knew you as a toddler, and they've seen the transformation the whole way through. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
there's these little bits of you that you can kind of ignore with the rest of the world, and when you get there, you're insecure. Like, they remember that time that I picked my nose when I was 9, and or whatever.
I know. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, do you
Remember
remember the
that
time
time
that
you went
Mike
to your?
picked his nose when he was 9? That was awesome.
It's true. It's true. And then they don't see the real you, because, like, I know my mom. She still sees me as, an 8-year-old or something,
Yeah,
and you know
I mean,
she
it's always fun when,
sometimes.
when her mother or her sister will treat her like she's 14 or doesn't know how relationships work. And she's like, I've been married for quite a while now and I've raised 3 children. I'm not
Yeah,
yeah,
and my
12.
sister is divorced, so she
yeah.
doesn't know.
But
She
she'll give her
doesn't know.
relationship advice. I
Probably
wonder
making
if
the most money.
I wonder if we
Personally.
should recycle friends every couple of years. So one of the few good pieces of advice my brother ever gave me was, work, when you're hired, a manager tends to hire you for the 2 promotions they can see in your future.
Yeah,
And it's a rare manager who can reevaluate you 4 years later, right? And say, oh, you've learned so much, you're ready for 2 more promotions at some point. Like most of them, you get to where they pictured you and they don't picture you any higher no matter what work you're doing.
yeah,
And he goes, so it's important to be able to evaluate, is that your manager's view of you, and move to another manager. May not be leave the company, but move
yeah,
somewhere. I wonder if that's, something with friends. You need to get new friends every once in a while because your old ones are stuck in your
yeah,
past.
yeah. And not
Okay,
like
so
necessarily
I'm
get.
leaving the podcast, Mike. I've known you too long. I'm moving on.
I was just about to say, and sometimes you start the idea of a company 15 years earlier, and then it finally becomes a company, and you're not able to work at the company that your name is on, and but you still feel ownership over it. Don't worry, he doesn't listen to the podcast, so he'll never know what I'm talking about. I constantly am like, hey, have you been like subscribed? Are you checking it out? Like, and I get nothing back. So he once we start making money, he'll be excited.
we have what we call a silent partner.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not. He is mostly silent, and so that is a good. That's why his name gets to be on stuff still. But yeah.
Cool.
Um. All
So,
right.
are you taking medicine? Are you taking any medication for depression or anxiety or anything?
No, I for the most part have like I've taken it in times of crisis,
Mm-hmm.
but I haven't been on regular medicine for 12 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
And I really haven't had that many moments where I've needed it. Um
Yeah.
And so like there's been times, and I'll go get in touch with a therapist and start. But for me, I know a lot about. I mean, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder at 18, so I've been dealing with it for a very long time. So I've learned a
Oh,
lot of the, exercise helps, diet can
yep.
affect it, and then if I
Yep.
manage that, um, it's pretty much under control, and most of the time. And then on the occasion when it pops up, then I know how to deal with it. I'm pretty well attuned to it, so I'm not like one of these people who will be like, I don't need help. I will be like, I need to do something right now about this because it's not great. Um, the last time I saw a therapist, like, was 7 or 8 years. It was right before Logan was born. I went and saw a guy, and apparently the DSM has changed so much that I'm no longer the current definition of bipolar.
Oh, really?
I'm the 25-year-old version of bipolar. What they were doing back then.
Oh,
So
okay.
I think I'm probably closer to. I don't remember how they worded it, but I'm probably closer to like a um, what's the thing Pete Davidson has, Matthew?
Hot girlfriends.
Yeah, I do have that. Sarah is not thrilled about that, but my insurance covers it. So, uh, no, I have. I would guess that from what I remember him saying, it sounded, and I wasn't familiar with the term yet, but it's like not partial personality. Borderline personality. I think that, like he said, I'm
Oh.
closer to I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm like not exactly in a definable state, but I wasn't at that point in time.
He says he has
Um,
BPD, borderline personality disorder.
yeah. So I think that that's what the doctor was describing, because that's somewhere in that realm, but it's not exactly the same thing. But I'm not sure because
Oh.
I didn't stick with it that long with that guy. And I, once I felt good, I stopped, but I am very good about getting checked when I need to, and making sure that I take care of it. I always want to let the audience know that, so that they don't think I'm an advocate for not medicating. I don't need to be medicated right now.
Yeah, it's
And
interesting.
Yeah.
Looking up
Well, I'm
Davidson,
the same.
apparently he was diagnosed with bipolar, and nothing they did in the bipolar realm helped him. And when
mm,
the new doctor diagnosed him with borderline personality disorder, they switched to those treatments, and it helped a lot. And so apparently,
okay,
Yeah.
apparently it's a misdiagnosis a lot that people diagnose with bipolar when it is borderline.
okay,
And so
but
so if bipolar
I.
treatment is not helping, maybe
it
it's the
did
other
it
issue.
when
Yeah.
I did do
Yeah.
bipolar treatment, it did help. Um, the reason why the guy said that I'm no longer classified that way is the amount of time between up and down swings was not within that. So like my swings
Oh.
aren't aren't as they
Not
aren't
rapidly cycling, as they say in
rapid.
this.
Yeah, exactly. So
Oh,
mine are
wow.
not rapid enough. Yeah.
Maybe I'm not either. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder also.
But
But I don't I don't have up and down that quickly these days. I I I do know when I start tending to get manic and I can bring myself down,
yeah,
but it doesn't happen often. But I do have really I'll have depressive states, and then I'll have manic states, and I I usually the depressive states I'll stay in that state until
yeah.
I can, until something new happens. But with the manic state, I recognize it and I can like bring myself down and not go too high, you know.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
the opposite. Typically, like when I'm manic, I really enjoy mania, and I know that some people don't.
Yeah.
But I enjoy, like, not, I don't mean that in like you should all get manic, but like I find, like, when I'm in it, I'm like, this is great. I love this.
Yeah.
It's the depressive I have a really hard time with, but I can't, like, if for example, if I'm in a fully depressive state and if we were going to come over to your house for for a
Hmm.
party, I would be like depressed the whole time, like 3 4 days. Get to your house, we're in the driveway, and I'm like, ugh, and Sarah will be like, we don't have to go if you don't want to go, and I'm like, no, because the second we get in there, I'm gonna fake it for about
Yeah.
3 to 5 minutes. I'm gonna fake being happy, and then it will kick in, and I can do that. I know that works 9 out of 10 times for me. But it's like it's weird because I think that that's uncommon that people are able to like. I know this is going to happen, and I'm going to be able to kick myself out. But then
Yeah.
when I'm like, there are times when I'm like, no, I don't want to feel better. I want to wallow, and I'll be like, I'm going to go, you know.
Yeah.
And I've had to in the last 2 years. I've really not allowed myself that because that is I get really dark and with that, and so I've been working on that. I don't think I've gotten into that for more than 3 or 4 minutes of like downward spiraling before I'm like, all right, I got to get up and go get a drink of water or do something because I cannot indulge. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have time to indulge in
yeah,
anything. There's so much going on in my life right now that I don't have time at, you know. And if
yeah,
my therapy is writing. I
yeah.
will I will either write out my feelings or I will take it out on some of my characters and just make them suffer. And for some reason that helps. I don't know
Character
why.
is her
There
nickname
was
for me, just so you know.
I was gonna say,
no
why
there
is one of them named Matthew Mrevat? Why does
yeah.
he suffer the worst?
Well, actually, there are several characters based on Matthew in my story. So,
Yeah.
in different story, and I do a
It's
lot
like
of fan
being John
fiction just
Malkovich.
for
It's just like
fun.
Matthews everywhere.
Yeah. Well, no, I
Matthew,
have
Matthew, Matthew,
I
Matthew.
write fan fiction for a couple of things, and so I have characters that are Matthew, and but I don't. There was this one time that it rained for like a week and a half, and it was thunderstorming, and I was so depressed, and it was just so horrible, and like and so I in this in one of the fan fictions I wrote about them encountering this horrible storm and they're stuck in a cave and they can't get out for 3 days and there's tornadoes and like all kinds of stuff and it actually helped. It was just writing is just my therapy, and I mean like I too am not against medication. I'm just on enough medicine right now. I'm on two things that I have to take every day and I just don't want to take anymore. But I find other ways to help, like the lavender tea, the writing, just hanging out with my kids or hanging out with Matthew, going out, and stuff. Going out always helps because
Yeah,
sometimes you just don't want to be stuck in the house and I might be depressed or manic or something, but like let's just go out and that'll just take my mind off of everything. There have been times when uh, I have to take Joseph to work or I have to pick him up, and then Leah comes with me, and I'm like, let's go shopping. Let's just go out and go shopping, or something.
yeah.
So what's
I'm not
fun
laughing
way?
at you. I'm laughing because Matthew could hear the dogs barking and said,
Oh,
Christy Gnome is in my house.
yeah.
Honestly, I was just glad that I wasn't talking while they were barking because there's been a couple times when I'm talking and then when I'm editing it, it's a fucking nightmare to
Yeah,
try to
Oh.
cut them.
so I didn't say
Where
it out
I could,
loud. I figured the podcast listeners would never know because you can edit that
yeah,
track out.
yeah. No, I will. I 100% I'm going to
Yeah.
edit because I didn't have to talk at all when they were barking. But the Christy Gnome
Yeah.
shit, that's another one. It's not a panic attack, but it's this
Mhm.
like this deep. It's like
Envy.
adjacent to a panic attack and envy. No, like this. And I'm not even an animal person, but the
I
idea
know.
of doing that is so psycho and like oh, it was hurting right
The
here.
part I like about it is
It hurt
she
me.
did what had to be done, and then decided to go kill a goat too, because when you do begrudgingly what you have to do, you then kill another animal.
Yeah,
Well, no, that broke my heart because I cannot I can't stand two things big time. I can't stand animals getting hurt, and I cannot stand children getting hurt.
yeah.
Like
Well,
I
and
can't.
guns. I mean, so
Well,
Well, I
guns
mean,
are a big problem with
yeah,
both those things.
but
So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and it's just like I I get these things on Facebook and Instagram about pets and stuff like and a friend of mine, she posts all this stuff about this dog was abandoned on the side of the road and he's just waiting for his owner. You know how dogs are, they get
yeah,
so attached to their owners, and then who would abandon, like, oh my god, that breaks my heart. That just breaks
yeah,
my heart. And then I can't watch kids getting hurt either until like shows like movies like The Hunger Games. I I read the books and I watched the movies and I hated it because it was
yeah,
children getting hurt, dying, getting hurt, just
yeah.
Oh God, I cannot. I cannot handle it. Leah had to read a couple of dystopian books in school, and I read them with her so that if she had questions, I could help her.
Yeah.
And there were so many, The Giver and all of those, The Fault in Our Stars, the kids have cancer or something. There was a
Yeah.
couple of Holocaust ones, and I'm
Number of
just
the
like,
Stars.
I can't handle this. I
Yeah.
can't. I just
I say I
can't
don't get to
handle
watch
it.
any movie that's dystopian. Like I'm dying to watch Fallout. But I'm like, no, I got to pick a time to watch it when she's not around.
I know. I can't. I
She's
can't do
going to Texas for a
dystopian.
week. I'll be watching Fallout.
I can't do it. I can't do anything that like is too real, like
Yeah.
put me on, Arrakis on a desert planet and I'm fine. That's fake, I know the
Yeah.
kids are
These are her
fighting and
posters.
stuff, but
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, Lord of the Rings, like, put me in the fakest world possible. I'm fine. Talk about a serial killer on Earth, on planet Earth. No, no, no. Talk about kids killing kids on Earth. No, no, I can't. I can't do it. I can't do it. It
Yeah.
breaks my heart. I cannot. I'm such an advocate for children and
Yeah.
animals. I cannot watch this stuff. I can't think about it.
I used to be okay with certain stuff, like with kids, if it was fiction. Like I said, with the Breaking Bad scene,
Oh
that
yeah,
like never bothered me when I watched it because I wasn't married or I hadn't met Sarah yet. I don't think when
yeah,
it came out, and it was like, yeah, that was fucked up, but it didn't affect me. And then
yeah.
today it did, and then um, but like seeing stuff like I don't, anything that has child trafficking or
Mm-hmm.
any like I literally am like I don't want to talk about it, and I'm not even talking about just fiction. I don't like. I had to tell my brother-in-law he wanted to talk about. He had read some story a few like maybe a year ago, and he brought it up, and I'm like, I cannot have this conversation with you because I will have a panic attack. Like
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
my nightmare. Like no, I don't want to talk about this.
We were in California a couple years ago for my niece's wedding, and that's the war between Russia and Ukraine was going on, and
Yeah,
they talked about there was a story about how these babies had to be moved from the NICU, and
yeah,
so dangerous because they're in
yeah,
the NICU, right, for a reason. And I burst into tears,
yeah.
and I was crying. Leah comes in, she's like, "What's wrong?" And I showed her the story, and she's like, "Oh my God, you can't read those stories, Mom."
No,
But yeah, I burst into tears. I
yeah.
cannot handle,
That
you know,
that's how there was one. It was the Ukraine thing. There was some
hmm
kids and they were probably older than Logan is now, maybe 9, 10 years old. In They were in a place and they were like hoping that their parents were going to make it to them, and it
yeah,
was like,
yeah,
and that's not even that's.
yeah,
I mean, it's emotional suffering, but it's not like they were all physically fine. And
yeah.
I still was like, I can't watch this. I cannot watch this right
I
now.
know, I know. And then when Trump did the family separation,
Yeah,
and it was like Nazi Germany. Oh, we're taking your kids to the showers. Oh yeah,
yeah,
right. Okay,
yeah.
oh
And
my
even
God.
let's say you just separate them, like you don't even know,
hmm
like that. Even if you separate them and plan to put them back together again, if you're not keeping good records, and like
Yep.
those people may never get to see their kids again, even if
I
their kids are
know.
alive and like decently well, like
Yeah,
Yep.
they didn't
Yeah,
plan to ever bring
yeah.
it back together again. I mean, that wasn't part of the plan.
I know.
No,
Because
no, but that's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking
Yeah,
because I can't imagine being separated from my kids, or anything terrible happening to them and stuff. I mean, Jacob was on campus during the UNC Charlotte shooting, and
he's messaging me, just so you know. I'm
I
not
was
laughing at anything you're
okay. No,
saying.
no, I know.
Matthew's messaging me to make me laugh.
inappropriately.
Because
Right when I'm talking about a serious
I
thing.
already
yeah,
sent it before you started talking about the shooter.
Yeah, no, but I know, but he's on campus and he's fine and totally safe. And I was a wreck and I cried all
yeah,
night. And then,
But it was also
and
he was in charge of where he was. He's in charge of the tutoring center. He was in the tutoring center. So he's like
yeah,
19 years old. He's like, I'm in charge of keeping everybody calm. I can't talk. So it's like we have
yeah,
to sit there and wait.
I know.
And we know
So
he
my,
should be okay, but we don't know for sure.
yeah.
yeah. And they didn't, at the time they didn't know how many shooters there were and what happened and all of that stuff. And so, um, it just, Lee and I were tabling for Mom's Man Action for this play in Durham, and it was called State of Urgency.
Yeah.
And they it was about shootings and kids growing up in this environment, and they showed thing from UNC, like on the wall they had monitors, and they showed uh, Riley Howell and Reed Parlier from UNC Charlotte, who were murdered,
Yeah.
in their in the classroom, and that's when my son was on campus, and I'm watching the play, and I burst into tears.
Yeah.
And my friend had to put her arms around me and hold me because I lost it. And this was 2019, so it was
Yeah.
it was we did I think in 2022, so it was like 3 years later, and I still get emotional
Yeah.
about
Yeah,
it.
I really
It
appreciate you
just
guys sharing your traumas, trying to trigger panic attacks to make the episode really work. I'm a little disappointed
no,
that it hasn't worked for either one of you.
so that we haven't had a
My
panic attack
my
on screen, so that you can see what happened.
I see you're
I'll tell you what
trying.
hon-
Like you're
happened.
talking about your nightmares. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly,
No.
if I had a panic attack though, I don't know that you would know it. I mean, you guys knowing me would
I
know
mean
it, but I don't know
the
that
Yeah.
dry heaving helps.
that was one time of my other panic attacks have not had that.
Well, let's
I
try to
would
get there, man.
I potentially would go pale, but like I'm not
Yeah.
sure that the general audience would know by looking at
I
me, and
mean,
I think
yeah.
that
I mean, go pale for you is kind of redundant.
I am the tannest person in this household. I know that's not saying much. I'm fully aware that that is saying nothing. I went from being the whitest person in my household growing up to being the tannest person because Sarah and Logan are neon white. But
Yeah. Yeah. But no, it's yeah, you wouldn't be able to tell with me either, because I can pretend really well that I'm totally fine.
yeah,
But if I wasn't on camera, and if I was on camera and I had a panic attack, you probably wouldn't know. The only thing is that sometimes I'll get the shakes.
yeah,
I'll get the chills and the shakes, and I'll start to like really, really shudder, and I have to put a blanket on, and I just, it's like I'm going into shock kind of thing, and I
I
get that occasionally during a panic attack, and it's awful. It just, yeah, ugh,
I get that
I hate
coming
it.
down off adrenaline.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
like whenever I'm coming off of adrenaline, whether it's from a panic attack or something else, I get the chills
yeah,
and like the jitteriness
yep,
and yeah, it's
yeah. It's awful. That's the only time you would probably know if I'd be shaking, but otherwise, I try to play it off, and I've done it in public before. We went to see a play. It was like about women's health issues and stuff, and there was this woman, and she was talking about how and they're talking about how black women are poorly treated in hospitals, during
oh
when
yeah,
they give birth, or when they're having issues or something, and they're and so the maternal fatality rate is really high, and so is the fetal one,
yeah.
and so they're talking about this on stage, and we're at this play, and I'm sitting beside Leah, and I almost had to walk out of the play, because I started, and I've never had anything trigger me like that before, but
Oh
I
yeah.
started to have a panic attack, and I had to like pretend I was fine, and
Yeah.
and I was fidgeting a little, and Leah's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine," and it took me forever to come down, and I had to keep listening to this woman talk about her experience. It was
Yeah.
a play, so she wasn't really going through it, but she talked. It was so good. She
Hmm.
did such a good job that I freaked out,
Yeah.
but it was all in. Nobody knew, and I
Yeah.
get in the car, and I said, "You didn't know this, but I had a massive panic attack while you were sitting beside me." And she's like, "Oh my God, I didn't know," and
Yeah.
yeah, it was, and
And
I wanted to flee, and I couldn't,
yeah.
so
And that's the
it was
reaction
awful.
that we want out of that play, that kind of play, to get out of the right people so that they'll actually
Right,
do something.
right,
Unfortunately, the people who get that are, you already understand the problem,
right,
or or you're
yeah.
getting a little bit more information. But I
Yeah.
have those moments too where I start freaking out about stuff, and I'm like, I'm not the right person. I already understand this, and that
I
this is an
know.
issue. I don't need to freak
Don't
out
tell
about
me.
this. I
Yeah.
need I need the guy who's like, no abortions under any situation. Like
The
those
person
guys
who
need to
the
be
person who's not going to be sitting next to you in the first
right.
place.
The person who's never
Right.
going to be in that play, but like you need them
Right.
to have that visceral reaction. And
Yep. Yep.
but yeah,
Yeah. Ugh.
yeah.
So they're not
The
fun, and I want them to go away, and I never want to have them again. So
yeah.
cross your fingers.
Well, and I'm sure you're in a you don't bury your head in the sand. Uh,
No,
the advocacy. That must not be easy for you. And
it's hard. It's
yeah,
hard. Yeah.
I wouldn't say I bury my head in the sand completely, but when it comes to those few trigger topics, I just am at the point where I'm like, someone else has to take this.
Well, I
But
mean, and that's why sometimes Lee and I step back,
yeah,
and we don't do as much because it's so hard to deal with some of these gun violence. We've
yeah,
expanded to women's rights and abortion rights
yeah,
and things like that. Tomorrow, actually, we're going to the NCGA with North Carolina Asian Americans together to talk about Asian rights in this country and the things that affect us. So
yeah.
we've expanded our repertoire, so to say, so to
Good,
speak.
good. I feel like to some extent, it feels like if you help in one way, it should help in more than one way. And
Yeah,
that's what I hope is the case, that when you have to let something slip, that like, and not everything's interconnected, but like if you're, dealing with hopefully the people that are on the anti mass shooters side of things are also
hmm
on the pro choice, keeping women's health an option kind of side of
yep,
things. And so you don't have to, well, I mean, we do have to worry about everything, but hopefully you can not be 100% focused on everything, which is impossible anyway. But
right. And this year, such an important election year, so
yeah,
there's a lot of stress there, and I already have a lot of stress going on because, like,
yeah,
Matthew's father has cancer, and I'm doing most of the
Heavy
caring
lifting.
for him.
yeah,
Yeah, like I drive him to all his appointments, and he's had so many lately. And we had a scare the other day, and I'm surprised I did not have a panic attack. We were at the pulmonologist, and he had to do a walking test, and it we were on like the third floor, and the walking test was on the fourth floor. So Lee and I are sitting in the waiting room on the third floor, just waiting for him to finish the test, and they'd taken him up in a wheelchair to the fourth floor. And one of the techs comes down. She's like, "Can I see you outside for a second?" I'm like, "Crap! What the heck happened? Like, did you just have a heart attack and he's dead on the floor somewhere?" Like, like my brain immediately went there. But
yeah,
the funny thing is I didn't panic. I went into, okay, well, what happened was his heart rate went up to like almost 200
yeah,
while he was walking, and she told me this, and I'm like, okay, we need to go upstairs and see what's going on. If it's still that high when I get upstairs, we need to take him to the hospital. Meanwhile, Leah knows something's wrong because this woman pulls me out of the room, right? And Leah's like,
yeah,
I'm sure she's in the other room freaking out. And so we get upstairs, and his heart rate was really high. So I ended up calling the cardiologist. Couldn't
yeah.
get her on the phone. Then his heart rate went right back down to normal. Like it was not 10 minutes later. It was totally
Okay,
fine. But surprisingly enough, I didn't panic. I was
good.
perfectly even keel, and I just okay. We need to do this, and I need to call the cardiologist, and we're gonna wait, until you check his blood pressure and his heart rate again when we go back downstairs. I'm not leaving until I talk to the cardiologist. We're gonna stay here. Like I made all these rational decisions, and I was so surprised. I was so surprised because I thought I was gonna. I really thought at first, I'm like, oh my god, please don't let me panic about this, and I didn't. And that was surprising to me. That was very surprising to me because I
Good.
really thought I was gonna have to call Matthew in a panic and go, "Your father's blah," and just freak out. And
Yeah,
none of that happened. None of it happens. I'm I'm shocked at myself. you know,
yeah. Well,
it's crazy.
good. You're getting good at managing it, which
Yeah. Yeah, and him I have to be tough with because you need to get up and exercise. That's why his heart rate went up because you don't exercise enough, and your heart can't even take 6 minutes of walking. You
yeah,
need to get up and walk around. Come, and
yeah,
every day when I talk to him, did you get up today? Did you get up at least 4 or 5 times a day? Did you do
yeah.
your exercising? So yeah, I'm very strict with him, and maybe that's why I was so so rational. It's because I've just learned that I have to be strict with him, and I have to, watch what he does and stuff. And so I'm just used to it, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think
Yep.
that's a good place maybe for
Yep.
us to start wrapping up.
Yep.
Any last thoughts, either of you?
No. Just, anybody out there, if you're having panic attacks, if you're having depression, please talk to somebody. There's no shame in talking to a therapist or a psychiatrist. There's no shame in taking medication. I took medication for years. I've just learned to
Yep.
manage things now. So, absolutely, better living through chemistry. I absolutely
Yep.
endorse, speaking to somebody and taking meds if you need it.
Yep. Yep. And even if you're opposed to taking meds for some reason, like therapy can help get you the tactics too. They're
Yes.
like therapy is, I think, multifaceted in a way that people just assume you're going to go and they're going to give you medicine that's going to turn you into a zombie. That's
Yeah.
not been my experience.
Yeah.
Also, typically from those of us who know, you go to one therapist for talk therapy and another person for potentially to look at medication options.
Yep.
So I know that
Yep.
meds scare people. You don't have to do meds. I would think with panic attacks that tactics might be, depending on the frequency and the intensity, that they may be something that a therapist would recommend.
Yep.
As often, figuring out how to get yourself out of that zone, whether it's doing something to kickstart, your system. I was listening to what's the name of the parenting podcast, Matthew?
Dear Old Dads.
Dear Old Dads, and they were talking about one of the sons used to have issues, and when he would have an issue, go take a shower, and I'm a big believer in something like that can kick you, and it's not always an option, but if doctors can help you figure those things out as well, and that's what I think is.
So I got kicked out of Home Depot.
Yeah, well, all right. Matthew, you want to start us off with the
I mean,
videos?
did you expect me to say that if you're watching this live, please join us for future live streams? Or we usually do it about 6:30 on Tuesdays on Facebook and YouTube when we can make them work. But watch those channels because sometimes we announce changes because special times if we have special guests or if one of us is going on vacation, we'll do a double whammy. So check it out. And if you're watching on YouTube delayed, the cleaned up the edited version on YouTube, like that sucker. Subscribe to the channel, ding ding ding, ring the bell. Make comments down below about what other topics you might want us to talk about. We like talking about the big stuff, so you can tell us the big stuff. So let us know that you're watching the videos. Otherwise, you're just one of those audio listeners.
Yep, and for the audio listeners, what I would love it if you would go on to whatever your podcast app of choice is, and give us a follow or a subscribe, a thumbs up or 5 stars. You can comment whatever you like on the reviews as long as you give us a thumbs up or 5 stars, because we do want to hear your feedback, but we also want the algorithm to keep suggesting us. So please be kind with the rating. If you wanted to provide support in the form other than just subscription,
money, we're talking money.
Yeah, we have a few options for you. You can get these episodes 4 days early on iTunes, on the Apple Podcast platform, by hitting the subscribe button as opposed to the follow button. Apple has to do everything a little different than everyone else, so
that costs just $1.
Just $1. And then there's also that dollar option on patreon.com/talking about the big stuff, but there's also a $3 option, which gets you all the uncensored stuff, which Matthew didn't
not
get that
necessarily
inappropriate
all the uncensored stuff. And
right. Well,
for this week, it would be all because my wife's here, so I didn't say anything really bad about her.
The worst things you say are not about her. They're about other mothers and other wives.
I have many.
But if you want to hear those versions, that's $3 And if you want that little bit extra, the stuff that when Matthew gets absolutely disgustingly filthy, those are on the $10 version. And
You want the
if for
fisting stories, you got to pay $10.
Oh my
fisting
god.
stories are $10, yeah. And then if you didn't know about it, we also have a Chocolate Diamond Patreon, which is the company that we have that owns Talking About the Big Stuff. But as we do other things, there will be more content on there as well, like our new Instagram series, which is called Exit Interviews, and that's exit.interviews on Instagram. We just recorded the third one about an hour ago. Probably my favorite one so far. And it was 7-8 minutes of like record time, and almost all of it is usable. So there will be an uncensored version. There'll just be like a complete straight shot of it on the Patreon on Chocolate Diamond. So which patreon.com/Chocolate Diamond Media 105, because as Matthew has pointed out, there's 104 other Chocolate Diamond Medias. But if you would like to see the short versions of those, they're about a minute long. You can go on Instagram and go to exit.interviews. You
Or go
can't,
to
however,
TikTok. Go to TikTok. That's what we
you can't
started it for. It's a
you
TikTok
can't
thing.
you can't go on TikTok because
No.
after one video we got banned for life. And it was the most innocuous video. I said the word fuck as an adjective, not even as a verb, and I said the word dildo, and we got kicked off for life. And I didn't say like go fuck yourself with a dildo.
Wear a dildo hat.
I said wear a dildo hat, and I fucking hate this job.
Meanwhile, they won't ban people who say go around
Don't
downtown
say something that's gonna
Apex
get.
and
Don't say
shoot.
something that's gonna get us banned. Don't say something that's gonna get us banned. So here's my example. This will get you
There's
banned. Don't
so
do that.
there are so many things that they
Yes.
allow that,
Yeah.
and you guys got banned for things that.
Yeah. Matthew, you got our
Yeah,
little sign off.
I just want to thank you all for, especially Madhavi, for joining us to talk about the big
Thank
stuff.
you.
Even though when you talk about the big stuff, your heart starts to beat faster, your eyes starts to twitch, you start to break out in a little sweat. It's important that you talk about the big stuff when you're talking with us.
Yeah, your knees weak, palms are heavy. Nope, that's not
Yeah.
right. Palms are sweaty. The preceding podcast has been a Chocolate Diamond Media LLC production. Copyright 2023, all rights reserved.